Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up earlier today with Merlin Moore Johnson of Salazar Resources. And if you want our thoughts on that conversation, the company's plans for next year, and indeed the company itself, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club, where you can also find detailed company reports. There's commentary from experts from around the world on a variety of commodities and companies. There are training videos on there. And there are summaries of other interviews, which just to save you a little bit of time, and a thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, safe environment. So do go and join them at cruxinvestor.com/club. And of course, we'd love your feedback too. So do give us a like, leave your comments below. And if you want to see what we talked about today, take a look at the description below. Merlin, how are you doing, sir?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Not too bad. Good to have you back on the show. Are you well? You've been away since we last spoke to you.
I have. I've just finished quarantining. I've come back from Ecuador. I spent 2 or 3 weeks out there. And I must say your office is looking very Christmassy already.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We do try. You know, it's all about entertainment here. So what was happening in Ecuador? I mean, in terms of, lockdown conditions, your ability to do anything?
Well, the reason for going out was that we're drilling at the Los Osos project. It was the first time the company's been drilling on its 100% areas for 3 or 4 years. I wanted to get out there and look at the geology. And I have to say, compared to the UK, they're really taking this coronavirus very seriously. I mean, the PPE at the airport, when you come off the airplane, you all have to sit in a line. You have to show your certificate of negative test. And then in the cities of Cuenca and Quito and Machala and Loja, everybody's wearing masks, social distancing, hand gel everywhere. I mean, the level of responsibility that the people that I met in Ecuador were taking was just really respect-worthy. Yeah,
we kind of got that. We've got one of the club members has moved down there, and there's an American individual who has said that it's £100 on the spot fine if you're not wearing a mask, which is a lot of money for a lot of people down there. So they really are gunning for it. So that's good news. Okay. Well, look, I'm sure we're about to hear about it anyway. So, but why don't you give us a 1-minute overview, and then I'll sort of dive into the questions if I may.
Sure. Salazar Resources is a TSXV company. Our market cap is 40 million Canadian, or about $30 million US. It's been listed for 13 years. We are we're aiming to be Ecuador's best explorers. We have already made one major discovery, which we have farmed out, and we are carried on that. It's going through feasibility at the moment, and it's called the El Domo deposit in the Curipamba project area. And the NPV on the PEA last year was $288 million. And so we are carried 25% all the way through to production. So our nominal value on that attributable to us is $70 million. Even if you give it a haircut of 50%, it still knocks it back to $35 million, which is more than our market capitalization. So we are effectively a risk-free exploration company with Ecuador's best explorers, our wholly owned portfolio, and a good kind of capital structure and income. So if you're looking for porphyry deposits, copper, gold, major deposits globally, one of the best places you want to be is in Ecuador. And we are one of those companies that you want to be with because we've got this dilution protection, and we've got this great team on the ground in Ecuador.
So, okay, some pretty big claims in there. We're going to start with one, which was you're the best explorers in Ecuador. I mean, what gives you the right to say that?
Did I say that? I think I said that we want to be known as one of the best explorers. So I couched it in lots of language. However, we do have a track record to back that up. So, for example, if you look at the 10 most advanced projects in Ecuador, which have got more than 50,000 meters in them, and they include things like Yurimagua, which is 982 million tons at 0.9% copper equivalent, Cascabel, Fruta del Norte, which is in production, the Mirador, which is the other commercial mine in production, the Gabi deposit, El Domo, you name it. Of the top 10, our team of geologists have got their DNA in 8 of those, i.e. they were involved in the discovery delineation process. Now, it's not to say that they're the only people who were involved in it, but our team was certainly involved in 8 of the top 10.
Okay, thanks for that. Let's talk about your the agreement with Adventus, because they're coming on the show soon, and we're going to sort of hear their thoughts on doing business in country. But how did that come about? How's that being structured? And I think you gave some economics there with regards to the valuation. So can you just, how are relationships first of all? Do you talk?
Okay. Yeah, we talk all the time. We talk on a daily basis, and I've got an excellent relationship with Adventus, and it goes right back. So Freddie Salazar founded Salazar Resources in 2007, and by 2011, with the El Domo discovery and process, the Salazar family had already met Christian Cagal-Simard, who at the time was a broker with Raymond James, who was an investment banker. And that relationship flourished over a number of years. Christian was always a key supporter of the Salazars. And when Christian ended up at a kind of an SPV spin out of Altius, Altius Minerals were funding him to find a zinc venture. One of the first things that Christian did was to look up Freddie Salazar. Freddie Salazar, by that stage, on that horrible downturn, from 2011 to 2016 was exhausted by the market. And what he really wanted was to have a structure where he didn't have to put any more capital into the project, and he didn't want to suffer any more dilution. And so that was the basis of the relationship. Adventus carries Salazar all the way through to production, and it pays $600,000 per annum through advanced royalty payments and management fees. In addition, Christian said he wanted to grow his portfolio. And so what he did was he structured an exploration alliance for zinc projects. So any new zinc project that we come across, we feed into, we have to offer to Adventus. However, the first two projects that we put in there were copper gold projects. So it's one of those hybrid things, which is El Domo is copper gold zinc. The two exploration licenses that we've in the alliance already are copper and gold porphyry targets, but we don't have an obligation to feed future projects in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So, yeah, right. So, but they're not focused on the exploration component at the moment, are they? They're putting all their time and effort into one project. And can you just give us a bit of detail about how much money they are spending on them, because it benefits you because you're fully carried, right?
Yes, although they are doing a lot of exploration work as well. Just to clarify, so on the Curipamba project, which includes El Domo, the VMS deposit, we are carried 25% all the way through to production. On the Exploration Alliance, we are carried 20% through to a construction decision. Adventus is doing infill drilling and feasibility work at El Domo, but it's also doing exploration work within the Curipamba license area. So that they're drilling at a new target called La Vaquera, and they're also drilling at one of the exploration licenses outside of Curipamba called Pijili.
Right, okay.
And that's hunting porphyries there.
So, well, there seems to be hunting porphyries and VMS, and so do you. So, I mean, so that's the relationship. You are funded to do what you want to do, and after quite a long period of inactivity, you've started drilling again. So maybe you just tell us a little bit about what you guys are up to.
I will. What I realized I forgot to say was that we actually have a drilling subsidiary, and that is being used by Adventus for all the exploration work and all the infill work. So in addition to the management fee and in addition to the advanced royalty, what we get is income from our 3 drill rigs, which are being used full time at the moment. So they're going full bore at the moment, no pun intended. And so the income from the work that we're doing for Adventus actually is enabling us to carry out more or less cost neutral exploration. And with that, we have our own portfolio of 3 100% licenses. One we're drilling, we've just announced a copper gold porphyry discovery. One we're doing geophysics and is a fantastic VMS target that we should have lined up for drilling by the middle of next year. And the third is a major copper gold porphyry target in the north on that Yuri Magua Cascabel trend.
Okay, what's the focus? Because you haven't got much money, so you can't be chasing all three, can you?
We can do a very low cost work program on all three. What we want to do is we want to, in the course of 2021, delineate our flagship asset. So we want to have, by the end of next year, we want to know which one is going to be our lead target and which is the one that we're going to put all our effort into, and we're going to try and farm out or do another deal on our non-core portfolio. So at the moment, the focus is Los Osos, because that is where the drill rigs is. But it doesn't mean that by the end of next year, it's necessarily going to be our number one target. This is a 12-month program of evaluation. It's not a sprint to get the first drill result out, although we've published the first logs and we're just waiting for the first assays.
Right. So you've got the team who've been associated with all of these big discoveries in Ecuador. You're financed because of the earn-in, the drill rig component to do this period of discovery. At the end of next year, you're going to pick your target. So who's the winner going to be?
We've all got our own favorites. Freddie has been stalking the Rumiñahui project up in the north for 20 years now. He first came across it when he was running exploration for Newmont. We've got a 1 hectare area with 2 grams gold, intense stockwork, chaotically veined with chalcopyrite. There's a lot of ash cover and there's some ultramafics on the western side, so it's actually quite hard to map it. But we've got these walk-up drill targets. And so we're terribly excited about drilling that. And that actually will be our next drill target after Los Osos. Personally, I really like the VMS potential down in the south. There's just over the border in Peru, there's 3 fabulous and huge VMS deposits with a rich gold cap. And we have many of the same signals and the same geology. We've got a barite cap. We've got 10 grams of gold in soils. We've got 30 grams of gold in rock chip. We've got some coherent soil geochemistry anomalies, and we're just doing the gravity and geophysics at the moment. So hopefully we'll have some bullseye targets with which we can test with drilling later in next year. So I'm particularly excited about that. On top of that, we've also got some other projects which we hope to be bringing in. So it's not just going to be those 3. We've got ongoing discussions on licenses that we applied for direct with the government and also with other owners of licenses. And I know this is all slightly breathless, but I do want to mention that last week we announced that we've discovered a new copper gold porphyry at Los Osos. So that's in the Cangrejos district. It's only 8 kilometers away from Cangrejos, which is 16.7 million ounces of gold with associated copper. And we've got the same style of mineralization. We've got silicified breccias sitting on top of mineralized diorite.
Okay, I mean, talk to me about the political situation, because again, we've had sort of feedback from people on the ground who are talking about, obviously you've got an election coming up, one, and different parts of the country feel differently about mining as well. You know, I think someone was saying that over in Pahili, they seem a bit more open to mining operators being there, and other parts not so much. You've got, placards and protests, etc. I mean, so what's happening there at the moment? It just seems very fraught, and and I also understand there's lots of big mining companies actually doing business and operating, very, very well in country. So, how do you navigate those choppy waters?
Choppy waters is exactly the right phrase, but I think you also have to look at the direction of the current, where are things moving? So from the top level, geologically, Ecuador is where you want to be. It's where you're going to find the big copper and gold deposits. You've got 25% of the world's production from Chile, 15% from Peru. And then you've got Ecuador, which has got this tiny copper production. But the fertility of the magmas is there and the geology runs over the border. The reason why there hasn't been production from Ecuador, or why there haven't been the big discoveries, has been political. And the economy moved to the US dollar 20 years ago. It's been the most stable currency in the history of Ecuador as an independent republic. And there's a great deal of support to stick with the dollar. The problem with sticking with the dollar is you can't print your own money. So you have to borrow it, or you have to get foreign direct investment, or you can you can earn hard currency through exports. And the government in 2007, when we're going back 13 years now, wanted to ban mining entirely, and in fact did ban mining entirely, but very quickly realized that it's the only industry that was going to provide the foreign direct investment, the job creation, and the hard currency earnings that was going to enable a social infrastructure spending. And so gradually, the country has moved from being anti-mining to being pro-mining. And that is currently reflected in all of the policy statements for the new candidates in the election, which is coming up. However, there is also a very vocal and very public anti-mining contingent to Ecuador. There are lots of communities that are anti-mining. There's a great deal of misunderstanding about mining, and there's a great deal of pollution from the existing illegal artisanal mining. So there's a massive education process that needs to go on in Ecuador. And what we find is that those communities where the mining companies engage and educate and communicate and are transparent and are taking a sustainable approach to mining in the area, that is where progress can happen. There is a key anti-mining candidate called Yaku Perez. He's an indigenous leader who's a lawyer by training, who changed his name to the Quechua word for water, which is Yaku. His original name was Carlos Perez. He's changed it to Water Perez. He is staunchly anti-mining, and he has now consolidated the vote as the indigenous leader. So he is actually running third in the polls, and he's got between 13 and 15% of the vote. And there's a lot of chatter that he is a major risk to the mining sector within Ecuador, and in fact to dollarization. The other candidates are also struggling to be able to communicate their pro-mining credentials, because it's not a very popular route to go ahead. So at the moment, they're just struggling. They're really campaigning for votes, and they all have a mining policy, but they're not talking about it. So the mood music you're hearing in Ecuador at the moment is actually quite anti-mining, and that will probably continue for the next couple of months. However, if one looks at the underlying data, and there are a number of extremely thorough polls that have been carried out in the country, the main preoccupation is the economic crisis as caused by coronavirus. That plus, so it's job security, it's income, the economy, and corruption are the major concerns among the populace. The environment comes a very, very distant third. So while there is some headline kind of anti-mining news, I think when it comes to election time, if one looks at the voting population of 12 million people, the polls have got two kind of center candidates well in advance. One is the Correa candidate. He's a guy called Andres Arauz, and it was the Correa administration which had a socialist bent, but which came round to mining and has been behind the most structural reforms in favor of mining. Sorry, that was a long answer. I hope I haven't distracted people too much.
Well, no, it means you've thought about it, because I think it's certainly being talked about, right? And I think if I talk to anyone about, should you be investing in Ecuador? I mean, those are the questions that get asked of us. I refer them to the miners that are actually there, and they're continuing to do business, and it seems to be business as usual. But as I say, there's a lot of white noise on the line, which is concerning new investors thinking about where can they go next, because there's a lot of optionality for people for gold stories, copper stories, which are obviously very popular of the moment, and you need to address these things as companies. And I don't see many of the big boys coming out and talking about it or putting stake in their position. So it's very hard looking at Ecuador at the moment to know if your money's going to be safe, if the investment's going to be safe.
I think you've described it perfectly as white noise or choppy waters. But actually, the economy is such that you cannot not have the mining industry. The economy is totally locked in to a responsible mining industry. With just two mines, which were commissioned in 2019, these two mines are already the fourth largest mainstay for the economy. So, I mean, it's phenomenal. The oil industry is ex-growth and locked into a toxic bit of Chinese debt. Every other industry is ex-growth. The main industry that the indigenous community wants is tourism, but that was ex-growth before coronavirus, and it's been decimated since then. So you've got $4 billion of investment in exploration, which is just waiting to come in. When the government opened the mining cadastre and said, who wants to come and explore in Ecuador, there was $4 billion of commitment. And so that really talks.
No, it does. But you can understand the sort of nervousness in the marketplace. They need to hear things like you're saying now to say, well, assuming it is heading the right way, the current is heading in the right way, then getting in now might be a good thing. But people talk about the Ecuador discount, right? And they talk about that in the context of, at the same time, people talk about the macro. There's a lack of big copper discoveries. There's a lack of copper porphyry discoveries out there. And as a country which is relatively virginal in that sense. The opportunities are there, but it's perhaps they're not getting the valuations that they want. I mean, you guys are, what are you, like 30 million market cap?
We are a $30 million market cap. However, remember that we've been a relatively passive investor. We've been carried by Adventus for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's only now that we are developing our own 100% portfolio. So the news release of our drill results last week was the first news release that we've put out in 3.5 years, maybe 4 years of our own 100% drilling. And we've got much more of that to come in the next 12 months. And I would also say that there's not necessarily an Ecuador discount. If you're looking for the big copper porphyry discoveries, this is the place, this is the country to be in. And there are a number of discoveries. I mean, SolGold's got $1 billion valuation. Solaris has got a $500 million valuation. But they've got the big discoveries, and it's where you go. It's the country you go to if you're looking for those kinds of things. And our market capitalization, in a sense, is, as I said, covered by the carry on El Domo, which enables us to be, as I said earlier, this risk-free investment on the exploration upside. So it's the ability of our team to find new deposits, find new areas, and then the third thing is, which is critical, is our ability to operate sustainably in Ecuador. So among our community, with the people, doing that process of education and trust building and working with the local communities so that you can thrive and survive in Ecuador for years and decades.
So why so slow? I mean, so you talk about a press release 2.5 years ago and your own assets. It's like, what have you been waiting for?
Well, I joined Salazar Resources 2 years ago, just under 2 years ago. And what Salazar Resources was putting all of its energy into the El Domo project. Okay, so it was a discovery from 2008, but there was a anti-mining law, there was the withholding tax, there was the global downturn, and Freddie Salazar and the team just did this fantastic job in navigating all those obstacles and turning El Domo into a valuable resource. And then when Adventus came and joined up, the team didn't have the bandwidth or the capacity or the capital to do anything else. And it was cash strapped, and it was totally focused on taking this El Domo project with Adventus, with the carry, up the value curve. Now, when I joined 2 years ago, we actually had the luxury and the time to say, okay, now we've got this asset all wrapped up. We've got access to the capital markets. We can do our own thing. And I really focused on pushing the 100% portfolio, and we've been working on that ever since. Now, why it's taken longer than we hoped is that the Ecuadorian government has actually been quite slow in the last 2 years. So there were problems with environmental permits and then problems with water permits. But we've managed to work around, we've got the water permits, and we're drilling. So we're up and running.
Okay, so talk to me about the work plan for the next 12 months, if you don't mind, specifically with the cash you've got available, because I'm guessing right now you don't want to be going out and raising capital, even though it's a very positive precious metals and copper market.
Yes, yes and no. We've got just under 2 million US in cash. We're probably going to be earning over $2 million over the next 12 months. So we've got about $4 million to play with. You don't want to run that right down to nothing. So let's call it $3 million to play with. Now, we've drilled over 1,000 meters, or just about 1,000 meters in Ossos, and we've got another few thousand meters to drill there. We'll then go into drilling at Rumiñahui, and then we'll go into drilling at Macará, which is the copper porphyry and then the VMS. So we've got enough money to drill that, but that because it's smoothed out over the year, it's just a little bit slow. So if we want to accelerate, then we would probably want to get some money in. So we don't need it. We might do it. Slightly depends on results, what we're looking at, how the markets go. We might have a look at how Ecuador goes in the next couple of months with the elections. But absolutely, we may want to hit it hard and drill out a resource, because once we know what the flagship is, then we want to really accelerate our program. But we've got drilling in Q1 from Los Osos. We'll be drilling Rumiñahui in the middle of the year, and we'll have the geophysics results from Macará in Q1, and we'll be moving towards drilling on that as well. So plenty coming up.
So what's your view of the market at the moment? Because it sounds like you're going to miss this cycle. You have to work towards the next cycle, aren't you?
Gold was very much the kind of the coronavirus trend of the first half of the year. But actually, if you look at the macroeconomics and you look at where the debt situation is, you look at where all the funny money is at the moment, I think anybody with who's been involved in the precious metals market is still very positive on gold. If you look at let's talk about a kind of an economic recovery, trying to get things back on track. You're looking at an electrified future. The supply demand for copper is looking very positive as well. So both of our key commodities, I think, have got exceedingly strong fundamentals, and in kind of the added twist is that on copper, there are so few big projects that have been out there, and so many companies. For example, BHP is moving away from its petroleum and its thermal coal, looking to replace that into green metals, is looking for nickel and looking for copper. You know, it's not just BHP that's doing that. Barrick's also looking for copper deposits. So the demand for copper deposits with scale and with gold has never been higher. Plus the background for the price is very positive as well. So no, I really don't think that this is the end of the market. I think that we're very much into a multi-year bull phase for these two commodities.
Why don't you just do another Adventus? Because I mean, have you got the scale or ambition to do this yourself? Because it's hard work, it's dilutory. With the track record of this team, are they going to be capable of raising the sort of money they're going to need to develop a porphyry project or VMS project for that matter?
Our skill set is managing Ecuador, finding new projects, and exploring stuff. So absolutely, we might want to do another Adventus, but with a new group. We've also remembered that Freddie was the head of exploration for Newmont, and what I haven't mentioned is that Carlos and Pacho were the head of the government's kind of evaluation team from 2015 onwards, and they ran a huge national review of all the projects. So if you want to find people who really know Ecuador better than anybody else, it's us. And with that reputation in industry, it means that all of the big guys call us up when they're looking at Ecuador. So whether it's Anglo American or BHP or Rio Tinto or Teck or First Quantum, they all know Freddie. We've all had that conversation. It's always, whether it's informal at one of the old school conferences or now over Zoom, it's what are you up to? What are you looking at? Can we talk? So absolutely, we might want to do another Adventus, which is with a new company or a mid-tier, but equally the big guys are looking at what we're doing as well.
Okay, so that's on the exploration side, and those are the big boys on the mining side. I'm talking about finance. What's your capability of going into the finance market and saying, hey, trust us, give us your money, we can build this thing out? Are you getting those phone calls?
Yes, we are. And we have excellent routes into the capital markets. We're not worried about, there's not a shortage of money. What we want to do is, before we really do a big ticket raise, is actually work out what our flagship is going to be. Because we've got enough money to do our evaluation. we can work out which one is our flagship is going to be, and once we've decided which one we go for, then we can raise the money. Absolutely no problem. And we've proven on Eldoma that we can take it from a moose pasture through to a 43-101 measured and indicated resource. That's absolutely our wheelhouse.
Okay, and then the OTCQB listing, I noticed this week. Is that just to give you a little bit of access to the North American markets?
North American markets, improve our liquidity. We're not the most liquid stock. As we get kind of steadier news flow with our own drill results coming out, we think that will grow, and it just makes sense to be open to the North American retail.
Okay, brilliant. As ever, very informative. Thank you very much. I'm glad you guys are getting motoring now, because I think perhaps the market hasn't recognised you because you haven't been doing too much, and waiting for Adventus to move forward. It doesn't really exactly put you in control. I think now you're back in control. Look forward to seeing what you do next year. Good luck with that.
Thank you. We've been, it's easy to tar us as a subsidiary of Adventus, but we really value our relationship with Adventus, but that is by no means the identity of the company. We are all about our 100% portfolio, finding and originating and defining resources on our own portfolio.